Here I am going to explain how to do the sky portions of the house blocks. When I'm making little houses, the sky is part of a flying goose unit, and all the roof and sky parts for the top part of this block were just made as a flying goose. So there's the square that I wanted for my roof color. The diagonal of that square has to be as wide as you want it, plus a little extra for seam allowance. And I then took another square that was slightly larger than the first one, cut it into four, sewed one piece on each side. And when I was finished, I pressed all of those sky parts to the outside and cut the diagonal of the roof block so that I would have enough for a roof. I made a lot of little houses, and I made all of the roof and sky parts the same way, chain piecing them one after the other and then just cutting them on the diagonal like this. But there's another way that you can make these, and if you're not making a lot of houses and you don't want them all the same size or a similar size, then you can just make like 4 at a time, and I'll show you how I like to do that. Okay, so here's another way to make 4 houses at one time, and I've used this several times and I really have a lot of fun making that. I'm going to show you on a piece of paper here what I'm going to do. I have a square, and I'm going to draw a line across the square, and this is going to be the roof, and then that is going to be the house. And if I want a door, here's a door. But I will have to add that in there, add that in there. So that's what I'm going to do. Just watch my method. I'm going to layer all of these together. 1, 2, 3, 4. No particular and I just started with a square, but I might end up with a rectangle. I'm not really sure what I'm going to end up with, but it's a lot of fun to do anyway. So I'm going to cut all 4 pieces at one time. Voila, like that. That's that cut. Now I'm going to do these 2 outside cuts. They can be on an angle, they can be any way you want them to be. There's that one. Here's this one. Now if I want to make a door, I have to make 2 more cuts this way. So I'll separate these out a little bit more. Oops. And then I'm going to just cut here. Now for the roof here, I need to make 2 diagonal cuts. And if I want to have a pointy roof, peak, oops, that's the marker. If I want to have a pointy peak here, I have to make sure that my lines cross like that, and I have some space up here. I don't have to make sure it's in the center, I just have to make sure it's there. 1 cut. Another cut. So now here's the fun part. I'm going to sew these together, but first of all, I'm going to take this one off Set it over there. Door for this house. Those are going together. Those are going together. The roof is going to be another color. There, that one can be there. The roof. And what's the last one I've got left? Not that one. Ah, this one. That one is going to be the sky. Sky today. Now this one has to be sky. And there's my house going to be that way. Now just sew it together. This one and this one. I like to set them out on my machine so I know what I'm doing when I'm sewing it. I'll do this roof first and then I'll do the bottom part. I shouldn't have taken that little piece off the top. But it's going to work anyway. It always does. This one's going here. There. Once I press it, it'll be fine. Now I'm going to take this one, this one, this one. Come on, my fingers are so. That one, that one, that one, and this one. All of those. So this is the first one I sew together. Now, of course, there's going to be a seam allowance, so it's going to shorten all of these up a bit, but that's all right. That is all right. And I like to make my seam underneath open. There we go. That one goes here. Just turn it over, it's easier. This one here. I'll just press these. I'll be right back. Here's the top part. I gave it a good press, and see, I've got my space up there that I wanted to have sky. And here is the house. You see how it shortens in as I sew the seam allowances, and it's going to be quite pretty. I did do a little bit of a trim on the bottom of that one. But what I'm going to do now is just put this on top. Sew them together. One little house with a really wild sky. Your choices of fabric will make it or break it. I just grabbed 4 off of a pile of scrap fabric that I had. I'll make the other 4 and show you in a minute and square them up. Just hang on. There. So here are my 4 blocks. I think if I were going to make these as a real quilt block, the patterns in this one were a little bit too wild for my liking. I just picked 4 fabrics off the top, but you can see there are the houses. There's not that much waste. I'm just going to square them up. And here I've just squared them down to 7.5 inches. Again, I think the patterns are a little bit too wonky for me, but I think they would work in certain circumstances. And it's kind of fun just to play around with a few squares. I'll show you a quilt that I used this technique with. So in this quilt, all I did for those 4 houses down in the lower left corner of this quilt, I used that exact same principle. And some of the roofs look a little bit wonky. Some of the sides are a little bit wonky. The door is a bit camouflaged in some, but others is fine. And I just used the same kind of technique, I guess, for all of the things in this particular quilt. 4 houses in a section at the bottom, 4 houses in a section in the center, and 4 houses at the top left side of the quilt. But I put other things on the other sides of those blocks, those big blocks. Now you can see in this one how I added a row of bright blue on either side of the house because the 2 patterns didn't separate well enough for me. And down at the bottom, the upper tree, I put a little bit of the door color on the top of the roof so that that pattern was separated from the sky area. So there's always room for manipulation when you're doing things like this. The one at the bottom, the door is a really squat door, isn't it? You have to crawl into that house. Anyway, I like playing with fabrics and I like the way they look together. And I'm glad that you asked me, how do you add the sky part to the houses? It's all a little bit of manipulation and a bit of figuring out the angles, I guess. I like making things that are a little bit different. There's these houses, and here's my little animal houses. And once again, the roof might overhang. The roof might just go right to the edge. Everything's just a little bit different in each of these houses. Some of them are lower than others. I just added a piece of sky. You can see the seam there if you look closely. And once again, thank you very much for watching my videos. I'm glad you are enjoying, and I'm really happy when you ask me questions. I like to explain the things that I've done. And if you have some questions, just let me know. Thanks for asking and thanks for watching. Bye for now.